Hi, and welcome to another edition of Senior Moment. I'm your host, Tom Bartee, and I want to thank you for joining us today for an informative moment exploring issues of interest to our seniors. Today our guest is Mr. Slater Matzke. Matzke. I'm usually pretty good with Polish names since I'm from Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
But welcome. You are the assistant to the city manager?
Actually, the title is Special Advisor to the City Manager. And I primarily work on economic development initiatives.
Cool.
And thanks for having me today, Tom.
Well, you're a wealth of information, and people will know that in less than 30 minutes. They'll have a good handle on it. So I'm glad you're here today.
Thank you.
So first of all, the city is really poised for some amazing things with economic development. The enhancement of things on Muir Island, the fact that we have 6 opportunity zones in the city of Vallejo, and the economy is overheating a little bit. So maybe you can start out with giving us some of the key, really cool things that are happening in town.
Absolutely, yeah. I completely agree. I mean, I think this is probably the most exciting time in Vallejo's history since the base was first established in the mid-1800s. From a development and economic development standpoint, right now Vallejo is experiencing historic lows in unemployment. The unemployment rate in Vallejo right now is hovering around 3.7, 3.8%, which is tracking below the state level, which is around 4%. So we're really at full employment right now. We've seen about 1,700, 1,800 new jobs created in Vallejo in the last 2 years. So there's just been a huge expansion across the board in our small, medium, and large businesses across the city, really. A lot of opportunity for Vallejoans, and that's really a driver of our economic development strategy at City Hall right now, is focusing on local hire initiatives that are creating opportunities for Vallejoans, really ensuring that we're also focused on living wage jobs, so that man, woman, someone entering the workforce for the first time, someone re-entering the workforce, they can find opportunities that are going to allow them to be able to provide for their families, themselves, and live at a healthy rate and a healthy level, so that we're really trying to move away from people that have to work second and sometimes third shifts at lower earning levels, that there are these types of really sustainable and resilient opportunities here locally.
So you said 1,700 plus new jobs in the last 2 years. Is that citywide? Is there a big chunk of that on Muir Island, or?
It's citywide. It's dispersed pretty evenly across the city. It's also sector agnostic, which means essentially that it's not just in construction or just in healthcare or just in a specific advanced manufacturing trade. And again, it goes back to the sort of strength of the city historically and also currently and into the future, is that we have a very diverse workforce from a skill set standpoint. You have people that are very skilled in the trades, and I think that goes back to the grit and the maritime foundation of the city. And then you also have healthcare professionals. You also have administrative support staff. The U.S. News and World Report just did an assessment of which cities across the country have the highest concentration of high-paying jobs that are sustainable and are projected to grow over the next 5 or 10 years. And Vallejo is actually ranked 6th in the country. Wow. For the concentration of high-paying, high-earning, and sustainable jobs. And again, I think that really speaks to the strength and the skill set and the grit that Vallejoans have. And it's really being recognized by our business community, both locally, regionally, and nationally, that when you want to tap into a diverse workforce, into an ecosystem that's healthy, people are looking at Vallejo. And that translates not only to opportunities on the mainland, but you'll also see that reflected in the huge development now that's happening on Muir Island, which is being referred to as the Bay Area mega project right now.
So with the expansion of the new projects on Muir Island and the redevelopment of a master plan, because we had we had a master plan established for the island in '94, I think. We're looking, as you pointed out, at putting together something that captures the vision for the next 100 years.
Absolutely. Not to use too many space metaphors, but really it's about the moonshot. Where do we want to go? I mean, there's a challenge that's being posed to the city by the Nimitz Group, and there's a challenge that's being posed by the city to the Nimitz Group, and to the community, and the community to us. Where can we be? How high can we go? And what are the bounds of what can be accomplished over the next 100 years? And that's from a economic development standpoint, from job creation, looking at advanced technologies. It's about transportation, autonomous vehicles and water ferry systems, and expanding that. And it's about resilient design from an environmental protection standpoint, and about renewable energy, and really thinking not for what the needs are right now, but 10 years from now, 20 years, 50 years, and 100 years from now. And I think through the community meetings that Nimitz has been facilitating over the last 6 months, where they go out into the community, and 100, 200, or 300 community members will turn out to hear firsthand what are the thoughts about transportation or green technologies that are going to be incorporated into the master plan on the island. And it's a very exciting time.
They also have recognized that sea level rise is going to be a component of design as well.
Absolutely.
Because there are, most of the island is fill, and obviously that's going to be a part of the construction situation. The design features, maybe even levees at some point around the perimeter of the island.
Absolutely. If you look at Muir Island and it's not an island right now technically. It's connected to the mainland on the north, and that's basically because what previously was Muir Island, as the Navy grew and expanded, they would use fill from the dredge in the strait to build more landmass that eventually walked it back up to where the Highway 37 overpass is. All of that. I mean, the vast majority of Muir Island, as we know it, is fill, and so that's a big part of what the planning is about soil surcharging, which is an engineering term for basically stacking more dirt on top of dirt so that it compacts down, so you can actually do vertical development on it. And sea level rise. It's a huge issue, but one of the most fascinating things is that the research and diagnostic and assessments that the experts and specialists that Nimitz are doing, that information is openly shared. It's like open source. So it's influencing and informing our community, City Hall, other developers, and that is all being folded into our long-term planning for a resilient design for the city. Without Nimitz, the city wouldn't be so proactive about implementing a strategic climate impact plan that will basically require build standards, development standards that will meet a 42-inch, as it's being scoped right now, a 42-inch sea level rise in addition to a 100-year surge, which is the best available data that is being used by Battery Park, by Treasure Island, by San Francisco. And a lot of that information and all of that good knowledge has been shared to us through our partnership and collaboration with Nimitz, and we've shared that out to other development projects that are happening around Vallejo. So there's just that symbiotic relationship that's happening, and it's great.
Yeah, if you look around Highway 37, Highway 101, north end of Muir Island, there's already evidence of sea level rise.
Yep.
Especially with king tides and storm surge and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So with Muir Island being connected by land, maybe we should rename it Muir Isthmus. But
or Muir Insula or something.
We'll save that for later. So what are some of the existing businesses and some of the areas of potential growth and expansion on Muir Island?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say one of our most recent success stories that comes to mind is Factory OS. It's a modular housing developer or fabricator, basically, and one of the founding partners is Rick Holliday, who's one of the founders of Eden Housing, which was an affordable housing nonprofit started in the 80s. He got into the development side of things, construction, and he realized between land costs in the Bay Area and other parts of the country and construction costs, and material costs, what if there was a way for me to be able to, or for him to be able to build these modules and then in a factory and then deploy them out to these development sites and then build them from there on site instead of doing the, so their whole model is based around 40% faster and 20% cheaper than traditional builds. And they signed a lease about 18 months ago, maybe 24 months ago on Muir Island. They occupy building 680, which you can see from the mainland because it's 260,000 square foot building shaped like a submarine. Mm-hmm. And the reason it's shaped like a submarine is because they actually used to build submarines inside of it.
Yeah.
And now he has an entire production line set up, and they have multiple projects online. Their first order was from Google for $20 million purchase for modulars before they'd even gotten the ink wet on the lease. So they were up and firing. They had experts on push side and pull side supply chain and improving processes of station oriented. Basically they start out with this piece, it moves down the assembly line and comes around. They had experts coming in from Sweden and around the world to make the design and process more efficient. And they've had tremendous success. And it's great to see a business go from an idea to a sapling to a full bloom in such a short time. And from a workforce side, I think they just hired employee number 260, 270. Mm-hmm. That's 270 well-paying jobs. They have union contract with the carpenters union. And those are local hired jobs. I think the 90% of their employees live within about 20 miles of the factory site.
So there's another partner business out there.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that one?
Yeah, so there's another modular company that just sprung up about 9 or 12 months ago called iMod Structures. And they essentially use sort of a steel frame, looks like a cargo container almost. And the market that they're tapping into is building classrooms that are future-proofed. And so essentially what future-proofing means is that the way that these are fabricated and the load bearing and the ability for these to endure storms and earthquakes and other seismic activity. And they have drop panels on the inside where you can have television screens that pop off and you can put all of the fiber optic cable inside, so you can basically build these out for whatever existing or future technologies might need to be incorporated into the build. And the great thing is that they can get deployed out to site on a truck or a barge, and they can install these things in a matter of days. So they can essentially build an entire school campus. Administrative buildings, stackable.
And they can hook them together like
Legos.
Together.
Yeah, and as the school grows over time or shifts, or they get more students, or they want to redesign, they can actually come back in and move these classrooms around. So they can actually grow and shape the classroom or the school structure based on what the needs are. And it's a fascinating product, fascinating design, and it really goes back to reinforcing the ingenuity and the grit of Vallejoans.
Mm-hmm. We also have a power company, Island Energy. We have biotech, a couple of them possibly on Muir Island.
Yeah, there's biotech presence out there. There's
internet provider.
We have Inyo Network. That's the city fiber optic partner that's running high-speed gigabit fiber across the city, across the island.
Rail car manufacturing or refurbishment.
Yeah,
Alstom.
Alstom's out there, and they're part of Alstom International, which is based out of France, and they have an operations center there, and they've also expanded now into vendor-managed inventory, where they actually manage all the inventory for different transportation services around the country, and it's been a serious boom in their business model as well. And again, just a tremendous amount of hiring done and also creating good jobs.
The movie industry.
Yeah, we've got
Paramount.
Yeah, Paramount, Film Muir Island. Netflix just finished its fourth and final season of 13 Reasons Why. The last Transformers mega blockbuster, I think, was filming in Vallejo for 3 months over the previous summer.
Bumblebee.
Yeah, Bumblebee. Yeah, exactly. And more productions planned for the future. And it has a lot to do with the fact that Vallejo is strategically located next to San Francisco, so there's a great collaboration with the film labor unions to be able to provide labor for film production there. There's fantastic tax incentives from the California Film Commission, and again, so these aren't just success stories that are happening, what's the word I'm looking for? By accident. These are actually happening by design.
Well, how about the rest of the city? I think we have the fairgrounds renovation.
Yep.
We have Costco relocation. There's some housing projects, and maybe you could hit up some of those.
Yeah, strategy for the city is, I mentioned about, creating local hire opportunities, but also making sure that there's geographic dispersion, if you will, of these economic development projects. And essentially that means, while we know that Muir Island has been and always will be sort of the economic engine for the North Bay area, making sure that as we're looking at bringing projects to realize them, that we want to look at North Vallejo, East Vallejo, South Vallejo, so that there's an equitable sort of distribution of these opportunities throughout the community. So to your question, or to your point, the city, working in conjunction with the county, just released a request for qualification similar to what we did for North Muir Island, to find a development partner to develop the 149 acres on the Solano County Fairgrounds, right there on the Highway 80 next to Six Flags. Right across the highway, we have the Cook Fairview project, which is going to include, I think, 170 homes. It'll have a commercial front, and that's where the Costco will be expanding into. Costco is the #1 sales tax generator for the city of Vallejo. It's a foundational partner. We've had great success with them, and they've had so much success that they needed to grow into a bigger space. So the new facility is actually going to be about 50% bigger than the current Costco. So when you walk into a Costco and you go, this is really big, the one in Vallejo is going to get 50% bigger.
The super Costco.
A Costco, or something along those lines. So, in South Vallejo, in Glen Cove, we have the Carlton Senior Living Center, which is 150 some odd units of senior assisted living homes that are being built, multi high density, right there on the water. The city's also working with Cal Maritime and their development partner, VMT, looking at the Sperry Mills site, the old flour mill there right on the water, to do a mixed-use project that would have an expansion opportunity for Cal Maritime to build more classrooms and more housing and bring more services to South Vallejo to meet their growing needs and meet the needs of South Vallejo. You've got projects like this happening all over the city, and it's great for a mega project like Muir Island to be happening, because that generates the amount of interest, and that's what really baits the hook for all the other entities that want to be involved in the fantastic things that are happening in Vallejo right now.
There will also apparently be some capital investments on the waterfront with the modified Callahan project. Also, isn't there going to be a cultural center on the waterfront next to the ferry?
Yeah, actually last night, the city council gave direction to city manager and city staff to enter into negotiations for a long-term ground lease for the building that's right there on the waterfront next to where the ferry disembarks and launches from, that goes directly to downtown San Francisco, which is something that has been a tremendous asset for the city. The ferry access to downtown San Francisco, where you've got a boom in ridership. 5 years ago, there were 300,000 riders a year that would take that ferry. Last year, it was about 1.3 million riders that took that ferry, and it's growing by 10% every year. But yes, that station, if you will, the ferry station, there's going to be a new development project, hopefully, right there. We're still in the negotiating phase, to do a cultural center, to do dining services, wine bar, an event center on the second floor. The proposed entity that's wanting to do the development there just did a fantastic presentation to council last night and gave 3D renderings and sort of a virtual tour showing what the schematics would look like. And it's a catalytic project for the waterfront, because that will then help to develop and shape all that green and active open space right there on the waterfront. And so, again, there's just so much great activity happening in Vallejo right now.
So is most of that information available on the city website?
Yeah, absolutely. There are all the agendas with all the visuals, all the materials that are made available at city council meetings. They're all available on the city's website. All the city council meetings, all the planning commission meetings, all the commission meetings are filmed live and are posted, I think, within about 24 hours to the city's website as well. So you can actually go back and see these presentations. You can see the questions that are being asked of your elected officials. You can see the questions that are being asked of the community members, and it's a great way for technology to help get more engagement from the community, because a lot of people, they have to work, they have children to take care of, jobs to go to, so they can't be as civically engaged as maybe they'd like to be.
Is there a portion of the website dedicated just to, say, a listing of economic development projects?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the works?
Yeah, our economic development portal is choosevallejo.com. And you can actually go there and you can see all of the development sites and project areas. It also gives you demographic information, business analytics. It has all the available commercial real estate, industrial real estate that's currently available in the city that you can actually see. You can look by square footage, zoning designation, things along those lines. And that's really been helpful for us to help promote economic development opportunities in the city. And again, we're building out even more robust information on the economic development front so that people can get live snapshots of the status on these developments.
Well, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
I know we could go on for a while.
I like to talk.
We only have just a few more moments and pretty much out of time. But
Sure.
I really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you being a part of the city team.
Thank you.
And clearly you understand the material that you're working on and immersed in, and that's really an exciting thing to see. So thank you for being on the show, and thank you for being with the city.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom.
Well, that's all the time we have today. Our show airs on AT&T UVerse 99, Comcast 27, and streaming live video at vcat.tv. Come see us again next time.